Hello, my friends, Dorothy here. Today we're going to talk about the new moon in the sign of Virgo. It's on September 2nd. And I will just immediately start my share with you so you get to see what I am looking at. Today, what I want to talk about in this forecast is, of course, that new moon at 11 degrees of Virgo. This is what it looks like. For those of you who are new to my channel, this goes on Patreon first. They get it first, and then it goes to YouTube and then all the other places. We don't talk about ascendant midheaven. We don't talk about house placements because this is a forecast that everybody gets to use. And not everybody lives where I live in the East, in the New Hampshire. So we don't talk about house placements, ascendant midheaven, and we don't talk about what does it mean for each individual sign. I want you to look at this as a report, a weather report. Today, I knew we were going to have thunderstorms this afternoon, so I planned all my outside activities this morning before I got to work because there's a thunderstorm going on outside right now. And I knew that was coming and I expected it because I looked at the weather and I listened and I paid attention. This is how we use astrology. Now, that aside, let's get started. Today, I'm going to talk about this new moon, how to use this new moon, what we will focus on. It is simultaneously in a little, it's wide, but it is in an opposition to Saturn in Pisces. I'll give you insight into that because this is more than one thing happening at a time. We have many things happening simultaneously. And then we apply this to our own personal lives and our own life situations. This is why this is just not for one person. This is something that we get to apply for all of us in our own special way. So, new moon in Virgo, opposite Saturn. That's the main theme of this forecast. But I wanted to cover a couple other things that are really happening and that are really important that are happening at the same time. And that's Mars in Gemini, quincunx Pluto. Mars will do that exact aspect on September 4th, but it is within 1 degree right here. And you can see it over here in the aspectarian as well. It's 1 degree applying aspect to Pluto. Pluto has just re-entered Capricorn, so there is a lot going on with that. So I'm going to cover that. And we also have Mars squaring Neptune, and that's just after midnight on September 3rd, East Coast, and there's what that looks like. So all of those two things are happening simultaneously as applying aspects during this new moon. So it's important to talk about those things because they're kind of adding to it. It's just like cooking soup. It's not just one ingredient. We add a few things, so it makes it more, there's more depth to it. And that's what we have going on here today. And I have this special chart up. This is what I like to look at when I'm looking at charts to begin with. And I want to talk about declination as well, because that is a measurement that they're either parallel or contraparallel, and they feel like they're either conjunct or opposition. For those of you who know astrology, it feels like the contraparallel, which we have between Mars and Pluto are in a quincunx or in conjunction here. So there's a lot going on with those two. I'm going to put all of that in today's forecast. So let me get started. I want to make sure I've got the share. I want to do a new share if it will let me. Here we go. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm on the right screen. So let's get started. New moon in Virgo, September 2nd at 11 degrees of Virgo, second decan. So that means we get to add in a little more mutable energy to this Virgo energy. The new moon in Virgo is requests. It's like planting a seed, right? So this new moon marks the new beginnings, especially related to the qualities of Virgo. So what are they? Their organization. It's about our health, our wellness, our daily routines, our coworkers, the things that we do every day and how we pay attention to that. If I was to pick any zodiac sign, in most of what they represent is about being present and being in the moment and honing in on those details and honing in on those things that we need to do. So Virgo being very logical, very practical, very detail oriented. This is what we need to do. This time of year, when the sun is in Virgo, by the time we get to this new moon, it's already been in Virgo for 11 days. And so you've had plenty of opportunities over that time period to focus on new habits, or things will show up before we get to this new moon, especially a few days before the new moon, things will show up that is sh- um, telling us what it is that we need to focus on. Like if you do, for instance, come down with something and you're not feeling well, um, you once you get past the critical point of that, whenever just a nasty cold, whatever, we realize it's like, oh, I need to focus more on, maybe I need to hydrate more, maybe I need more nutritious food or more vitamins or more sleep or less stress. It Before every new moon, we have this period where we get to see what it is that we need to sort of let go of and release. And that way we can begin something fresh and new and plan something. We all know what that means. We all know what it's like when things just get to a point in life where we need to stop, we need to let go, we need to reevaluate, and then we need to start focusing in a new direction. This is what we get with every new moon, but this one is in Virgo. So once again, I'll repeat, it's about harnessing that energy of the new moon for health, daily habits, health and daily habits, and how you want to process that. Now, with this new moon in an opposition to Saturn, especially Saturn retrograde in the sign of Pisces, this also is an opportunity. Saturn's been moving through Pisces for quite some time now, been retrograde for a little while, and it's giving us an opportunity to reassess the structures in our life, right? Our lives. That's Saturn. You're going to hear me repeat that a little bit later because Pluto's in Capricorn. It means very similar thing. So Saturn retrograde, reevaluating our structure in our lives, reevaluating things in our lives that are about who we are and our foundations. And with Saturn in Pisces, that structure and that foundation, we want to know what the spiritual path is. So this new moon in Virgo, which is asking us to set goals and intentions around honing in on details and changing our habits so we can become more healthy, whether it's mentally or physically, it gives us that opportunity. Add spiritually in there too, because it's opposite Saturn in Pisces. There's a lot of reorganization going on right now. We could see it everywhere. We could see it all around us and maybe within as well. And hopefully your journey is an easy one. But change is never easy isn't easy for most people. So is it easy or not? I don't know. You'll have to decide that yourself. But if we can ride this wave, and the reason I want us to ride this wave, and I tend to say that a lot especially to individual clients, is that it's important that, excuse me, whatever we're going through, we can't fight against it. It's just like making sure you just ride the wave as much as possible. Yeah, just think of a surfer. So, new moon in Virgo, sit down, meditate, spend time before the new moon. That new moon exactly is at, let me get the time for you, 9:56 p.m. Eastern time. Had to clear my throat, excuse me. So before the new moon, make sure you sit down and clear the deck, if you will. Release, let go. That balsamic lunar phase before the new one is about letting things go. It's realizations, having aha moments. Then we have space cleared. So we can then take this new moon in Virgo that's opposite Saturn, and it gives us this opportunity to assess what we believe, assess our patterns, our cycles, and our routines, and to look at and take steps towards what is best for you as an individual. So Virgo season, really good, focusing on that physical health, daily routines, creating new habits. I want you to do that. It's so important that we pay attention to that. Stay in your lane right now so you can feel safe and comforted while you initiate and you write out your intentions for what you want in the coming few months. All right. Now, I love the lunar gestation cycle. Those of you over in my Patreon membership, and if you aren't in that, please come and join me there. I would love that. Tier 3 is the best place to start. Every new moon starts a 3-year cycle in what's called the lunar gestation cycle, the lunar gestation phases. It's a 36-month, 3-year cycle that starts with every new moon, and it comes in 9-month increments, if you will. And the new moon is always this fragile place of where we're putting our intentions there, and we're hoping and wishing and dreaming about what we want to focus on and what we want to grow, especially over these next 9 months. 9 months from this new moon, we'll have the first quarter moon in a very similar degree, which is when we'll be able to see what is growing and what is blossoming. Yeah. It's a lunar gestation cycle, 9 months, 4 9-month cycles. Yeah, equals 36 months, which is 3 years. So give yourself that space. Honor this new moon. Honor this. It happens every month. So we have many of them going on simultaneously. Some matter more than others for us as individuals. It depends on where you are in your life and where these new moons are for you. To find that out, you either need to know your own personal chart or right here, have a personal session. Okay. Now I want to move on to what's next. And the next couple of aspects, I'll mark them out here. And I do talk about this in the weekly forecast, which is tier 3. So this is what a new moon looks like. Right over there in the aspectarian, that's what it is right here. And then this is what it looks like in the aspectarian, the opposition, okay? So we've just covered that. And you can read the forecast on my blog post. By the time this goes on YouTube, it will be up. But you guys on Patreon who get this first, it's not quite ready yet. I have to do some editing still. It takes like 8 hours to do the writing and the blah, blah, blah. It's a bit much. I know, I'm not fast. The things I want to talk about next. Mars in Gemini. So Mars in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury has just finished a retrograde phase. Not as of this recording. You guys on Patreon will get this before Mercury is stationary. Excuse me. Mercury is direct on August 28th, 5:14 p.m. Eastern time. Anyways, back to this. Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini. So it's like the things we think and we've been processing, especially while Mercury was retrograde. And I say that because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Okay. And so Mars being in Gemini, this is what we're doing: thinking, processing, figuring out how to take action. You can't just think. You have to act. Now, find a way to take at least just one step forward towards the direction that you want to go. We can process this with the new moon. We can think about this with the new moon if you want, but it can be a separate subject. Again, you will know what that means in your own life. Mars and Gemini, thinking things through, but let's take an action step. It's at a quincunx. I call that the quincunx. Some people call it an inconjunction. It's 150 degrees away from Pluto. That exact aspect happened September 4, around 2 p.m. Eastern, but it is it's only within 1 degree. You can see it right down here, of Pluto. So very tight already. Quincunx is a tight aspect. This is about making adjustments. We're having a lot of, we really have to figure out what those adjustments represent, right? So that Mars, quincunx, Pluto. Let me get my notes here. That Mars, quincunx, Pluto, focusing on those daily habits and routines with that new moon in Virgo, and then that Mars, Pluto, quincunx, and that Mars, Pluto, contra parallel. Let me grab that. I'll show you that too. Yeah. So they act like an opposition. There's a tug of war going on here. The Pluto, who is just backed into Capricorn, when did that do that? Pluto backed into Capricorn on September 1st, so the day before this new moon. And now Mars quincunx Pluto, and Mars and Pluto contra parallel to each other. There is an absolute tug of war going on between the steps that I take and the things I need to let go of. That Pluto in Capricorn for the next 4 weeks, no, I think it's 8 weeks, while it is finishing up Capricorn, and it will not be in, that's the last time it will be in Capricorn for our lifetimes. It'll be hundreds of years before it comes back. We are releasing old ways of processing and thinking. All we have to do is look at what's going on in our country politically and around the world. There is so many things that are in complete and total upheaval because there's just so much that needs to change. This goes on personally too. So let's bring it to personal. And because we can see the politics of it, but bring it to your personal life. And this even includes the Saturn opposition with the new moon. It is saying the things that do not need to be in our lives anymore, we really need to get them out. It's just like getting out the nastiest of infection that will not release. It will not let go. We are afraid to let go of something because it's just, it's just been dug in for so long. So we talk about infections, and we're talking about Virgo, and we're talking about our health. And this could be the truth for somebody, that there is some form of thing like that. I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not diagnosing anything, but it's like that. There is something that is just so rooted in us, whether it's a nasty infection we can't get rid of, or it's a belief so grounded in us, whether it's from this lifetime or even prior lifetimes. We are in a period of letting that go, releasing it. It's like shifting those timelines. If you listen to anybody who talks about the energy forecasting of things these days, I mean, we are going from this a lot of people have already moved out of this third dimensional energy that's really solid, and it's really grounded just in physical things, and trying to step it up to a new level 5, I guess. And this is what it feels like. It's just like completely and totally abandoning what we've been told, what we believe, and it's time to evolve beyond these old processes. So this new moon in Virgo is way more than just a new moon in Virgo because of the things that happen simultaneously. Let me clean up this mess, and we'll go to one more aspect now. So there is that and that. Now the other aspect is Mars making that square aspect to Neptune. And Neptune is down here parallel with Venus. So that can give us a whole different story. I'll give us that in a minute. Let's do the Mars and the Mars square Neptune. Excuse me a second. So having Mars square Neptune while it's simultaneously quincunx Pluto, this can feel like misunderstandings in some ways. The square aspects tend to create tension and stress. So, when there's something that isn't feeling great, it has our attention. And that means we need to do something about it. Mars in Gemini is mutable. So whatever we've been thinking, the action we can take, not too hard to do. Quincunx Pluto, that means we will be evolving. We will be changing something on a deep level. Squaring Neptune, to me, that represents that Neptune in Pisces. It represents an opportunity to step into a new way of creating, a new way of being spiritually, a new practice, new hope, right, in your life. Mars square Neptune. Again, Mars is fiery energy in its own natural state, and Neptune in Pisces is very watery. So there are many ways that we can use this. Some of us will use this Mars Neptune square in a sense like if you put fire to water, you can boil water for hot water, for tea, for food, for cooking, for a warm shower. Or you can think about out camping. If there's a big torrential rain, water on your campfire, it drowns it out. You've got nothing. So we've got to find our balance here. We've got to find this and I know it sounds very complicated, and it kind of is, because there is so much going on in a lot of different aspects. So this tells me that it's not just the new moon in Virgo, and we're not just writing manifestation, new moon manifestation things in our journals. We're going to sit down and we're going to write how we're feeling before. We're going to write down what we should be releasing, what we know isn't working anymore, and be open and honest with yourself. And then we're going to be writing out, the details of what's going on in our lives, whether it's our health, whether it's our routines, whether it's our coworkers, something to do with the daily activities. We're going to write that down. And then with the Mars-Pluto quincunx and Mars-Pluto contraparallel, that tells us that we have this opportunity. While it feels difficult, 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still progress. And this is what we have with the Mars-Pluto aspects, taking steps, feeling it out, saying, oh, maybe I just need to make this little bit of adjustment, little pivot to move towards whatever is next. Mars-Pluto. Mars-Neptune, allow some flow. You've got to allow some flow, and you've got to find some balance. I know there's not usually balance is not usually a word we use when we talk about that square aspect, but when it comes to fire and water elements, they're both mutable, these 2 signs. But the point is like not too much fire because we don't want things to boil over, but not too much water because we don't want things to get drowned out. So you've got to find a place and a way to balance your efforts. So making practical efforts with compassion, with understanding, compassion for yourself, because I'm talking about you. It's okay to focus on yourself, right? That to me is just so important, because once we focus on ourselves, then we're able to, take that and help others. And that last little thing I just wanted to touch, this isn't in the written forecast, that Venus, Neptune parallel measurement here. I did talk about Sun, Saturn opposition. This means the same. Venus, Neptune together, they are not connected over here. If they're connected by declination, they do not necessarily mean they're connected by the aspects. Yeah, that's not necessarily true. So Neptune, Venus, parallel with each other is, and Venus is in her own sign and Neptune's in her own sign. And I feel Neptune and Pisces is feminine. We have this opportunity for the edges to be softened, meaning you can go, I'm going to stop my share. You can step into meditation and just feel glorious. You can get into a bathtub, and feel wonderful. Whatever those things that you can do for yourself that smooths over those rough edges, instead of having like a serrated bread knife, you have a butter knife, just anything. And that might not be the best example, but anything to smooth over the rough edges. That Venus Neptune gives us that opportunity to do that. Yeah, it does. Okay. Full forecast, the full written forecast is on my blog, on my website. You guys will have that either soon or already there, depending on when you get to see this. All right, everybody, thank you so much. And please don't forget, come into Patreon and join us there. If you haven't, tier 3 is the best option. I have 4 tiers, but tier 3 is very affordable for everybody. And comment, like, and share. That really helps a lot. It makes a big difference because there's so much going on out there. We get drowned out a bit some days. So I need your help, and I appreciate your help sharing. Blessings, everybody. Namaste.